Parents of Reddit, what is most top secret you are hiding from your children? Adoptive parent of 3 kids, 2 of which are biological siblings and cousins. Found out a year after the adoption that the biological parents were half-siblings who shared the same dad. The bio-parents found out after they had the first child and proceeded to have another. The kids are now 16 and 13 respectively and have zero clue that they are a product of incest. Unfortunately, the biological grandpa just passed away, so there very well could be a big reveal coming in the near future. That she can't have a relationship with her grandfather because he's a pedophile and I would never trust him. The rest of my family maintains a relationship with him and leans on me hard to open up communication because family comes first. They're absolutely right, my family does come first, which is why my daughter won't ever have to have a relationship with him. My mom kept it a secret that the woman I was named after her mom, my grandma, was stabbed to death by my uncle when my mom was 18. I always suspected my grandma had a tragic death because of how my mom would avoid talking about it, but I didn't know it was that tragic. My son is still very young, but I'm not planning to tell him his dad left us for meth and another woman. He's clean now and they actually split. He's at least involved again. Edit. I really didn't expect this to blow up. As long as his dad stays clean and wants to be involved, then I don't plan on telling him. If it does come up, I would like to give his dad the chance to explain everything, and I'll be there for any questions as well as support. My biological dad left us for heroin when I was a kid and I always thought it that he didn't want me. I don't ever want my son to feel that way. I harbor no ill will towards my ex and I truly hope that he does stay clean for his own sake and the kids. He has an older daughter with someone else. I don't know if it's the most up, but my kids don't know that my grandfather was a child molester. He died before they were born, so I don't see any reason to ever bring it up. Also, that before we got together and got married, my husband was briefly married to my sister. No kids and no real drama when it ended and we started dating later. Sorry, it's not really a thing that gets brought up often. They do know that she's had multiple husbands, but they don't know who the first one was. My wife and I each have a child from a previous marriage. Both of our ex-spouses were abusive cheaters. Both children still adore and idolize their other parent and we just keep smiling and nodding. This probably isn't the type of thing Ob was asking, but it is a secret that we will maintain for years. Edit. Thanks everyone for the replies and commiserative stories. Makes us feel better that we are not the only ones keeping things like this a secret. Not a parent but a child. This last Christmas I found out that not only was my mom had already been previously married and divorced, but my dad had a kid before he married my mom. So I have a half-brother or sister that I have never met. The real kicker was I found it out from my new sister-in-law who had someone did some digging, found out, assumed that I must already know and brought it up out of the blue on Christmas Eve while we were baking cookies. Before I found out I was pregnant with my first child, I took a shit ton of pills. I think it's the closest I've ever come to suicide. I had always dealt with anxiety and depression. I feel like the extra hormones put me over the edge. I found out about a week later that I was pregnant. Surprise. I was terrified the entire pregnancy that something would be wrong with him. Luckily, he was completely healthy and is an incredibly smart child. I've never told anyone. I feel so guilty. My wife is not the biological mother of our twins. We did IVF and the biological mother was an egg donor from a country in South America. My wife carried him and gave birth to them, but has no biological connection. We'll tell them someday when they're older. It's a little bit strange, but one looks exactly like me at that age, and the other one looks very much like my brother. I'm the child, but my dad waited till I'm grown up to tell me that my mom gave me a lot of sleeping pills when I was a little child so she could leave me alone at home to maintain her relationship with her lover while my dad was working in another country. That cleared up many things. My son was a product of rape. He just thinks I had really low standards in men at one point. Please God, tell me you don't have the share custody with the father. My daughter knows that her grandparents are getting a divorce. She doesn't know that it's because Grandpa 72 decided to knock up a 23-year-old. We will talk about it once she's older, but I don't want to normalize that relationship for a pre-adolescent. Not in my secret and not really f***ed up, but my grandma revealed on her deathbed to my mom and dad, her supposedly firstborn son, that while in nursing school in the 1950s in a different state, she actually conceived a child out of wedlock and gave her up for adoption. Not even my very religious grandpa knew that. She just wanted to not have that information to die with her, so she told my parents. Sure enough, a few years back, the aforementioned half-aunt got in touch with my dad to ask about my dead mother, her medical history, so on, pretty reasonable stuff. Since then, almost all of the family knows about it, with my dad jokingly referring to my aunts and uncles as my full brother, sister. I have an unusual family. My parents told me my sister is adopted. They didn't tell her. She's 34. By the way, help, what do I do? Buy the whole family DNA test kits for Christmas and watch the world burn. My whole family thinks I'm awful with money because I'm super broke despite having a good job, but I'm actually socking away every spare penny to put my niece through college and to take care of my parents when they can't work anymore. Edit. Thank you for kind strangers for my first platinum and silver. My son was planned, but after separating from his father when my son was 18 months old and having basically nowhere to go, no way to actually take care of us on our own, many times I thought about the possibility of dropping him off at the hospital and skipping town. I never did, and he is 8 now and we are very happy. Grandpa's not a grandpa. I didn't find out until I was 30 that my dad adopted me and my mom was married to someone else when I was born. My 15-year-old was looking at those DNA kits in the store. I wonder what surprises it would find. Oh, more than you think, sweetie. I'll tell them someday. Just not what the right time is. Then again, that's what my parents told me when I asked why they never told me about Bio Dad until he reached out to me and blew the secret. Pretty sure they know, but my second cousins are technically twins 2 years apart. Their parents did in vitro and 2 of the eggs were fertilized. They weren't ready for twins, so they froze one of the eggs and had the second kid 2 years later. It's actually pretty cool. Edit. I wasn't super familiar with IVF when this happened and a lot of people are saying they aren't twins. Doesn't really matter to me if they're or aren't. I just thought it was cool when I was a kid. I was about 9 when the oldest was born. For anyone who's wondering, they're a boy and a girl. Not mine, but my sister's oldest doesn't know that her younger sister, whom she loved with all her heart, was kidnapped, raped and then shot in the head. She believes that the younger one died in a car accident. That's pretty effed up according to me. My son's older half-sister molested him and that's why we don't see them anymore. Waiting until we can get into a psych for support before we break it to him.